What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Absolute Auction Podcast. And Mark and I are happy to bring you guys dynasty fantasy football content from a auction perspective. Mark, what is going on, man? Welcome back.
It's good back, man. It was a long fantasy season. I had a couple championships, but nothing too crazy. No teams. I had teams that I really wished would make it over the top and just fell just like a little bit short. But yeah, I mean, it was a good fantasy season. It was crazy, and it was a great playoffs and a Super Bowl. Yeah, it's been awesome watching football, but it's getting back to talking football. We're ready, and dynasty content. We never sleep, so we gotta get going right away now that the season's over.
Exactly. Like this is day one of the offseason. This is the kickoff to true dynasty content coming out. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to just do a quick Super Bowl recap, basic things we saw, what the future could be for these certain players. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to spend, top dollar on Saquon Barkley or, Patrick Mahomes isn't that great, but that is a redraft mindset. We're here for dynasty mindset, Mark. So we're going to look at not now, but we're going to look at now and the future of 1, 2, possibly 3 years of these certain players. So we'll kick it off here strong with the let me see. I'm sorry. Trying to get the dust off here. But we're gonna go actually, you know what? Yeah, let's kick it off with the Super Bowl MVP here. Let's go with Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts, 117 for 22, 221 yards, and two touchdowns, one interception. Along with that, 11 rushing attempts, 72 yards, another touchdown. Jalen Hurts looks like to be on the rise. Solid fantasy quarterback. How we feel about him going forward, though? Like, if you're building your draft right now, where on your nucleus, Mark, as we always like to say, everyone about your nucleus, where would you put him in? What tier would you have him in your QBs?
He's still hanging out in top platinum tier. I've never had Jalen below that. I don't think I had him at all last year either. Um, for fantasy, he does everything you want to do. He has a high rushing floor, and he's got a passing upside. He's put on two Super Bowl MVP worthy performances in the two Super Bowls he's played. First one, he came up a little bit short, but he was far and away the best on the field on Sunday. So I think fantasy is a game that with ups and he had a rockier season than might have predicted. He got hurt in the fantasy semifinals. If you remember, concussion that he went out and probably did some of his fantasy managers like myself a little dirty. That's not on him. I can't stop a guy from getting hurt. And really, I think I've been a great quarterback. He's a guy you want to anchor your, especially if you're playing super flex. A guy you want on your team. A guy that is always going to be vying for that top four at the position, which is what qualifies you for my tiers. Qualifies you to go into that platinum tier. So he's there. He's been there. And he's going to continue to be there. He's got he might not be the best in that tier. You want Josh Allen, you want Lamar Jackson. You can debate about Jaden Daniels now. But really, I think as long as he's got a great offensive line, he's got 2-star receivers, he's got a great passing game to work with. He does have Saquon Barkley, but I imagine years coming that it's only going to work more until that offensive line falls off, which I don't think it's too. It looked great last night, and it's probably going to be a top 10 unit again this year. So, I'm not looking more than a year out anyway. Even in Dynasty, I really don't like to keep my windows very long in the short term, because ultimately next year, values are going to be a year. Just what's it look like next anyway? So, Jalen's a platinum tier for me, and he's not coming down for anytime soon.
No, I'm with you on that. Like, I love the rushing upside, and that's the downside of reality football here is that injury that they tend to get when they have the running. Like, you have your Joe Burrows out there who are more pocket passers. They don't really do any running. They can dominate with their arm. Jalen Hurts is able to do both when he needs to do both. So I'm up there with you, man. He's definitely, I say he's a top 3 in my quarterbacks right now. Same as you say, I look year to year, but I like the next at least a couple years with him and his contract. So I'm more than happy to keep him where he is.
Right.
Especially going forward now with this.
You're willing to reevaluate, go like I'm not saying that I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be playing in their 3 years. I think that's fine. It's fine. I'm willing to concede that I might be wrong in another year. We're predicting the weather here. It's not that we can't get close and we do a good job, but no one's predicting the weather a year from now. I mean, people are, but they're not taking it as hard and fast law. We're not expecting it's going to rain on whatever it is, February 10th, a year from now. That doesn't matter to me. Like eventually, whatever happens throughout this season is going to change dynasty value. And the players that are still very good are going to stay up top. The players that underperform are going to move down. And I can't really see a reason why you'd move Jalen down on a talent level. I expect their team is going to be pretty good as well. So, yeah, there's no point in taking him down.
Yeah, taking a step back, though, of one player for sure, that's got to be Patrick Mahomes, man. I mean, last night he was struggling to get the ball out. But not just to mention also, like, he didn't have that great of a fantasy football season. He struggled to be a top 12 quarterback. He only had a couple games that were actually viable for fantasy. It seems like he's on the downtrend, and I'm starting to feel more of a backhand QB1. Like I say, like QB8 is what keeps coming to my mind every time I look at him. How do you feel about him going forward?
Despite him, he's falling down my ranks. I don't mind saying that. He's not in the top 5. I've had him before. But it actually is going to kind of expose that my platinum tier has gotten pretty large. At the year, it's always going to be. As we get closer to, as you get into June, July, August, and to September, that platinum tier might shrink. Those tiers might dry up, and you might shorten everything. But this far out, I can't necessarily take him out. I don't think he was playing horribly. I think that the Eagles had a really good plan for him. They didn't have to rush him once. They were still able to get pressure on him the entire game. And he's not going to face the Eagles every year. I think when you have that 2-time Super Bowl champion target on your back, it makes everyone play just a little bit harder against you. And not that I don't think that the Chiefs have work to do. I think that they could definitely do some things to upgrade their offense. And while I don't think they have the best receiving core, I also don't think that they're so bad that we can just say, yeah, Mahomes is on talent alone. I think Mahomes still belongs in that ability to end up in the top 4 in any given year. He's just moving his way down a little bit. That's what I kind of my tiering rankings this time of year. He might be. I think he's my quarterback 6 right now. I don't have him up right in front of me. But he might be my 6. But him being in that platinum tier still gives you that indicator that there's the chance that he can still be a top 3rd quarterback 1 in this coming season. Because he might be revenge tour for all we know. We can't really say in a year, and he still is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league.
Or it could be a Super Bowl hangover. We've seen that happen too. But we have lots of time, between now and the NFL draft. We have free agency. So, I mean, based on what that offensive line did yesterday, which was get obliterated by that Philly defensive line. So you can definitely see that needs to be worked on. Yes, the receivers need help. But, it's kind of hard to say, like I'll say, Travis Kelce was going to have a dominant game yesterday. I was like, they're going to have to throw the ball. But is this the end of Travis Kelce? I feel like, yeah, he had a good game overall, stat-wise, just because they're basically trying to play catch-up. But 4 receptions, 39 yards. That's kind of what he's been this season. Like, this was like a down season for him. the whole top like 2, 3, 4, 5 tight end, I think is out of the question for Kelsey. And I actually think that this truly is the downtrend of Kelsey and the uptrend of Noah Gray.
I can't necessarily speak on Noah Gray or if he's going to retain fantasy value. Because really, Kelsey is a special player. He's always been a special player. One of the best tight ends ever to do it in history. And Mahomes is a great quarterback. He might be able to uplift, but I don't, necessarily see him out targeting either Rice or Xavier in the coming year. So it kind of I'm hoping to see more of a balanced receiver passing attack from them, and go in kind of a different direction. And if that, I'm not necessarily sure they need to get rid of Kelsey. He still has enough to give you that he's able to play through the playoffs. Because I realized kind of what he did this year, and you saw this with at the end as well. He didn't need to play the entire season or play full on his best the entire season, but sometimes having that outlet, which Mahomes was desperately looking for yesterday, I will say, like even when he couldn't really get it going, he still wanted and needed to get Kelsey involved. I could see Kelsey retiring, maybe. I know there's rumor in the air. I don't really want to speculate on what he's got, what he's going to say. I'm sure he'll say whether he's playing or not playing in the coming months. Really, I don't think he's top tight end worthy. Not going to be a person you want to take in the first plus rounds of your draft, probably even later. But he's going to go in that 6 to 8 round range. It might be tougher to click the button. He might even be tight end 8 around that range for all we know. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it was worth a draft pick, and you could have just spent on a late round.
No, and definitely one player who is actually worth a draft pick is probably going to be one of the highest paid players. Actually not paid players. The highest one it's going to be going in auctions. And that's going to be Saquon Barkley. He didn't have a dominant game. 25 carries, 57 yards. I mean, that Chiefs defense was out to get him. Yeah, he didn't need to do anything. I mean, he was just basically there to enjoy his birthday and not get hurt. But he had 6 receptions, 40 yards, a huge catch thing, down by the goal line. Very heck of a player. I see him as being like, if this continues on, this offensive line stays as is, like Saquon Barkley RB1, again. It's never happened back-to-back years, but I feel like he's decrowned Christian McCaffrey, and I like him a lot going forward here.
Yeah, I think for Dynasty, some might look at Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan, maybe because they're a little bit younger before that, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm the one who's dying to draft a running back early or spend high cap back, but Saquon is as good as running backs, if not better at this point. And really, I think when he's on your team, he's absolutely going to producing for you. He is going to be valuable for him. He'll be worth trade assets. But the way I play Dynasty specifically, I don't like spending that kind of early capital on running back. I'd rather find young guys later for cheap or old guys later for cheap. So for me, if Saquon if his Dynasty value is going to rise significantly where I'm putting a high amount of capital, I'm going to be out. It might be in startups difficult if you're one of those players that goes for the title immediately, and he does slip even a few rounds. Like I think I might be comfortable taking him in like round early round 4 in a dynasty if I was feeling that kind of wing backs. But again, that's usually not my MO. But if he were to fall a little bit further for his age, that he would be out of those top 2 or 3 rounds, I think I'd be really excited then. But it's hard to be really excited about any running back value, especially this time of year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that, and we'll talk about that later in other episodes. But we'll just jump on to another player too, that I look at, and he's still going to be top 12 this going into the next season. That's going to be AJ Brown too. He's definitely up there. He had a great game last night. Didn't get in the end zone like Devonta Smith did, but Also, between those two,
He did get in the end zone.
oh, did he?
He was the first. I think he was his first passing touchdown.
Oh, I was thinking Jahan Dotson.
Yes, he just missed it.
Yeah, that was the one. Oh yeah, you're right. My bad.
It's all right.
But
My underdog lineup wanted to make sure that you knew that.
yeah. So I mean, him and Devonta
at
Smith
least I had a respectable showing.
So as long as AJ Brown is there, Devonta Smith is a great back end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for you. Plenty of age behind him to go with it. So these two wide receivers are definitely going to be solid, especially with Jalen Hurts around, Saquon Barkley. You got enough weapons to take it off. Dallas Goedert, he's going to be one of those tight ends where it's more of a back end type of tight end. But AJ Brown, I'm here for the wide receivers on this one when it comes to Philadelphia Eagles. And then, Oops, go ahead.
No. I mean, I think they're both valuable players. Players are going to be good players on good offenses. AJ Brown, if you are an ageist when it comes to dynasty, AJ Brown is moving up that age cliff. I think he's 20 this coming football season. So he's moving his way up there. But I think that outside, I don't think he should be outside of the top 12 right now. I know that again, the Eagles had their ups and downs this year, and it came out in the playoffs. But I also think things are, they're gonna have to things differently than they did this year, whether they like it or not, because they're gonna be the Super Bowl champions, and people are gonna look to take away what they did so well, and you might see a few more people trying to stop the run. And if that's the case, AJ Brown, they're both gonna be great options. I think they're kind of at that point where they're probably a little more valuable than where they're actually being taken right now. But that's fine. I'll take that. And I think there are just a number of wide receivers that are going to move up into upper echelon. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, a few of those rookies. If you really like Ladnick, he might move his way close to that area. Puka's going to move his way up. So he's going to be passed, but I don't necessarily losing that production anywhere near that production that he can give you. And he's basically shown again. Last year he came into the season as a platinum tier wide receiver for me. He was my sixth and final platinum tier. And then he got hurt. Got hurt in the beginning of the year. He's probably had that injury to deal with most of the year. And it wouldn't surprise me if he really moves his way up dynasty rankings this coming year. Although again, it's gonna be a tough. I think he's gonna probably good value for a while because his age is getting, but I don't think he's any worse than what people kind of expected going in here. I think that injury is probably going to come back and he'll play maybe season this year for all we know.
Yeah, he can still play at a high level, I think, too. So I'm not really too worried about him. I'm buying him if I can get him in any type of trade. If I can trade a first round, especially this year's rookie draft as of right now. It's just hard to kind of trade picks, but it's super easy because there's not much value because we don't know any value on them. We just have the assumption of value. But one value of one wide receiver I'm really enjoying this season, and basically from what he did yesterday, 8 for 8, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. I love Xavier Worthy. I can see him pushing up into wide receiver 1 territory. I'd be glad to take him safely as a wide receiver 2 here, especially in any auction drafts that are starting right now. If I'm able to get him as my wide receiver 2 over, if I could pair him, say, with AJ Brown, I would feel very comfortable with that because that transition piece of going from wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 1 could happen as AJ Brown could go from wide receiver 1 down to wide receiver 2.
Yeah, I like Worthy too. I think he's a little more boom busty than I were in my top 2 wide receivers. But I do think he's probably still worth that wide receiver 2 value. And he's gonna have wide receiver 1 upside in a lot of different games. Again, that's why I can't really rule out Mahomes because when you have a guy like Worthy. Again, I think Rashee Rice has shown that he was a good for that offense, and I think they were probably counting him to really take a lot of the brunt part of the season as a young veteran of the team. He's been on the team Super Bowl. He's not old, an old vet like Kelsey who needs the extra rest. So I felt like maybe they were really counting on more from Rashee Rice this year. That he maybe would still, I think they could be both like top 15 wide receivers if everything strikes right.
Oh yeah.
But like that's why it's hard to rule out Mahomes. Even though he's lost Kelsey, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't have a good offense. And again, he's always capable of being, the best quarterback in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard. That's why I take him down off that. It's why it's hard for me to put Rashee Rice higher than I want him, or Rashee Rice and Xavier. Where I think it makes it hard, just like the Eagles players. Like it makes it hard to put them up higher than they should be because there's two of them and you're not 100. But yeah, all of them really have wide receiver upside any given Sunday, and they all kind of like hang out in that low wide receiver 2 kind of area.
Yeah, I can see. No, I definitely see that. I can see where you're coming from on that. And especially we don't know the status of DeAndre Hopkins. Is he going to come back this season? What is Hollywood Brown going to do? Is he going to come back? There's a lot of offseason things to do between both these teams. Kellen Moore is leaving, going to the New Orleans Saints. So the Eagles are going to have to get a new coordinator. What's this team going to look like? What are both these teams going to look like this offseason? That's a lot of questions that are going to be answered here in the next coming months. So, anything else, Mark? I say we wrap this one up. Maybe we pretty much hit everyone.
No, it's good. I mean, Kellen Moore, hopefully he can help do something to turn the Saints around. I think the Saints have a lot of issues right now that aren't, their salary cap's not looking good. So it might be one of those rebuild around kind of years, which may mean that Kellen Moore will be headed back to the Eagles next year. But who knows? I think that I've always kind of see what he would do as a head coach. He has been a pretty decent offensive mind. So maybe they've got some pieces. Kamara, they've got Ave. They needed a quarterback, that's for sure. And I heard that maybe Rodgers is thinking about playing down there. So I don't know if I don't think he's necessarily incompetent as a quarterback, but they might be able to make something right offensive system going down there.
Let's hope. I hope something can happen. But you still got Derek Carr down there, so hopefully it works out well.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, hopefully. I've heard that he might be traded, but who knows? Who knows? I'm not 100% any of this. I'm not a scout or what am I trying to say? I'm not Adam Schefter.
Nah, we're not to that point. I know we got a lot of our studying still to do. It's the first day of the offseason, so we thought we'd just do a quick Super Bowl recap, give you guys a few players to look at, kind of think about. But we'll be back with more episodes. There's more to come, so stay tuned. We'll talk to you guys later.
See ya.